David Allan Coe's prison letters have been locked away for over 15 years, until now. What they reveal will change everything you thought you knew about him. David Allan Coe is an outlaw country legend, known for his unfiltered approach to music and life. But beneath his controversial persona lies a complex story of struggle, regret, and redemption. These newly uncovered letters offer a rare glimpse into Coe's most vulnerable moments, his regrets, his challenges, and the battles he fought within himself. David Allan Coe's rebellious spirit was forged during a troubled childhood. Abandoned by his father and left to navigate a harsh world on his own, Coe faced a series of early struggles that shaped his defiance toward authority. His youth was marked by a constant clash with the system, a system he felt never gave him a fair chance. From running away from home to his first run-ins with the law, Coe's early years were less about making bad decisions and more about survival in an unforgiving world. These formative events instilled in Coe a deep mistrust of authority and a fierce need to carve out his own path. His early rebellion wasn't just about breaking rules. It was about resisting a world that had never shown him any mercy. Coe's childhood was filled with moments that tested his resolve, from sleeping on the streets to struggling to find enough to eat. The harshness of his environment turned him into a fighter, someone who refused to back down no matter the odds. As Coe grew older, this defiance only intensified. He became known for his unwillingness to conform, often clashing with figures of authority who tried to control him. His run-ins with the law were frequent, and each encounter seemed to push him further away from the possibility of a stable life. He was sent to reform schools, juvenile detention centers, and eventually prison. To Coe, these institutions represented a system that sought to break his spirit, but instead, they only fueled his determination to live life on his own terms. Coe's rebellious nature was both a defense mechanism and a means of survival. He learned early on that the only person he could truly rely on was himself. This sense of isolation made him wary of trusting others, and his experiences with abandonment left deep emotional scars. Despite the tough exterior he presented to the world, Coe was a young man who longed for connection, for a sense of belonging that always seemed just out of reach. It wasn't just the external struggles that shaped Coe. It was also the internal battles he faced every day. The anger he felt toward his father for abandoning him, the resentment toward a society that seemed determined to keep him down. These emotions festered within him, driving his rebellious actions. Coe's early years were a cycle of defiance and consequence, each act of rebellion leading to harsher punishments and fewer opportunities for a fresh start. Eventually, Coe's defiance led him down a path that would land him behind bars. Prison was a turning point, but not in the way the system intended. Rather than breaking him, it forced Coe to confront the reality of his life choices. It was within the confines of a prison cell that Coe began to reflect on the events that had brought him there. He realized that his rebellion, while necessary for survival, had also trapped him in a cycle he couldn't escape. It was in prison that the true impact of his past started to shape his future, setting the stage for the transformation that was yet to come. Prison was supposed to be a place of punishment, but for David Allan Coe, it became the birthplace of something unexpected: his passion for music. It was within those cold, confining walls that Coe found his voice. Music became his escape, his way of coping with the harsh realities of incarceration. With nothing but time on his hands, Coe began to write songs, pouring his pain, anger, and hopes into every lyric. Prison life deeply affected Coe's worldview. It stripped away any illusions he had about life and forced him to confront his own demons. Music wasn't just a pastime. It became his only form of self-expression, a way to make sense of the chaos around him. The songs he wrote behind bars were raw, honest, and deeply personal, capturing the essence of a man who had been pushed to his limits. Music gave him a sense of purpose, something he had never truly experienced before. Writing songs became a form of therapy for Coe. He channeled all of his emotions, his anger at the system, his sorrow for the life he had lost, and his longing for something better, into his music. His lyrics spoke of hardship and resilience, painting a vivid picture of the struggles he faced both inside and outside of prison. For the first time, Coe felt like he had a way to communicate his story, to share his truth with the world. The more he wrote, the more he realized that music could be his way out, a way to transform his pain into something meaningful. Prison was a harsh environment, and the days were long and monotonous. But music broke through that monotony, giving Coe something to look forward to each day. He began performing for other inmates, using his voice and his guitar to bring a little light to the otherwise dark existence they all shared. These small performances were a turning point for Coe. They showed him that his music had the power to connect with others, to resonate with people who were also struggling. It was a powerful realization, one that fueled his determination to keep going. However, it wasn't all smooth sailing. There were times when Coe doubted himself, when the weight of his circumstances felt too heavy to bear. He questioned whether his music would ever reach beyond the prison walls, whether anyone on the outside would care about the songs of a convict. But even in his darkest moments, Coe found solace in his music. It was the one thing that no one could take from him, the one thing that gave him hope for a better future. As Coe continued to write and perform, his reputation grew. Fellow inmates began to see him not just as another prisoner, but as someone with a gift, someone who had the ability to turn their shared pain into something beautiful. Music became a lifeline, not just for Coe, but for those around him. It was during these years that Coe truly began to understand the power of his voice and the impact his words could have. What started as a way to survive soon became the key to his future. Music gave Coe a reason to keep fighting, a reason to believe that there was something better waiting for him beyond the prison gates. It became his motivation, his driving force, and ultimately, his way out. The passion for music that was born behind bars would go on to define the rest of his life, setting the stage for the career that was yet to come. For over 15 years, David Allan Coe's prison letters remained hidden from the public eye. Now, for the first time, we get a glimpse into the mind of the man behind the outlaw persona. These letters reveal a side of Coe that few have ever seen, a man filled with regret, haunted by his past, and struggling with the weight of his own actions. In these handwritten confessions, Coe speaks of his guilt, his sorrow, and his battle with addiction. The public persona of David Allan Coe, the rebellious outlaw, stands in stark contrast to the vulnerable man revealed in these letters. He writes about the mistakes he made, the people he hurt, and the moments he wishes he could take back. The emotions in his words are raw and unfiltered, showing a man who was not as invincible as his music might suggest. These confessions didn't just shape his music. They haunted him for years after his release, serving as a constant reminder of the shadows he could never fully escape. One of the most striking aspects of these letters is Coe's honesty about his battle with addiction. He writes candidly about the ways in which his addiction controlled his life, leading him to make choices he deeply regretted. The letters paint a picture of a man who was aware of his flaws, but felt powerless to overcome them. Coe's words reveal the inner turmoil of a man who wanted to be better, but often found himself falling back into old habits. His struggle with addiction was not just a physical battle, but an emotional one, fueled by guilt, shame, and the fear of never being able to break free. Coe also speaks of his deep regrets regarding the relationships he damaged. He acknowledges the hurt he caused to those who cared about him, expressing a longing to make amends. The letters show a man who, despite his tough exterior, was profoundly affected by the impact of his actions on others. He writes of missed opportunities for reconciliation, of friendships lost because of his inability to let go of his pride. This vulnerability stands in stark contrast to the defiant outlaw image he projected to the world. But these letters weren't just about regret. They were about trying to escape the shadow of a past he couldn't outrun. They were a desperate attempt to find some form of redemption, even if it was only on paper. Coe's letters reveal his desire to be seen as more than just an outlaw. He wanted to be understood as a man who had made mistakes, but was trying to change. He poured his heart into these confessions, hoping that by putting his thoughts on paper, he could begin to heal. The letters also provide insight into how Coe's regrets shaped his music. His songs became a reflection of the pain and guilt he carried, and his lyrics often touched on themes of redemption and forgiveness. Coe's music was his way of processing his emotions, of trying to make sense of his past. The raw honesty of his letters translated into his songs, giving them a depth that resonated with his audience. Fans who listened closely could hear the sorrow behind the defiance, the longing for a second chance that Coe so often sang about. These letters, filled with confessions and reflections, show a side of David Allan Coe that was rarely seen by the public. They reveal a man who was deeply flawed, but also deeply human. Someone who was struggling to find his way in a world that had often been unkind to him. Through his letters, Coe sought redemption, not just from others, but from himself. They were his way of confronting the past, of facing the mistakes he had made, and of trying to find a path forward. The letters were a testament to his humanity, a reminder that even the toughest outlaw had a heart that could break. David Allan Coe's life was marked by a constant struggle with identity. On stage, he was the epitome of the outlaw, tough, unyielding, and unapologetic. But off stage, he grappled with deep-seated feelings of loneliness and a longing for redemption. His experiences in prison had left scars that never truly healed, and these scars often seeped into his music, giving it an authenticity that resonated with fans. The duality of Coe's identity was a paradox. He was both the hardened outlaw and the vulnerable man seeking forgiveness. His songs reflected this conflict, often oscillating between defiance and introspection. Addiction, regret, and guilt were recurring themes in his music, but so was the hope for something better. Coe's music was his way of processing the pain, of trying to reconcile the two sides of himself. He struggled with the pressure of maintaining his outlaw persona while yearning for a sense of inner peace. This internal battle made his music relatable to many, as it spoke to the universal human experience of trying to overcome personal demons. Coe's experiences in prison played a significant role in shaping this duality. The tough exterior he adopted as a survival mechanism during those years was something he carried with him long after his release. On stage, he portrayed the image of a man who had faced the harshest realities and emerged unbroken. Yet, beneath the surface, he was haunted by the memories of those years. Memories that would often resurface in his songs. The vulnerability in his lyrics was a window into the pain he carried, a reminder that even the toughest figures have moments of fragility. This struggle with identity was further complicated by the expectations of the music industry and his fans. Coe knew that his image as an outlaw was what drew people to his music, but he also felt trapped by that image. He wanted to show his audience the full scope of who he was, not just the defiant rebel, but also the man who longed for redemption and connection. His music became the medium through which he could express these conflicting desires, allowing him to share his story in a way that felt true to him. The duality of Coe's identity was also evident in his relationships. He often found it difficult to let people get too close, fearing that they might see the vulnerable side of him that he kept hidden from the world. His music, however, allowed him to bridge that gap. Through his songs, he could communicate the emotions he found difficult to express in person, his regrets, his hopes, and his longing for something more. Fans who listened closely could hear the pain behind the bravado, the longing for connection that Coe struggled to find in his personal life. Yet, as Coe tried to rebuild his life and career, he faced the ultimate question. Could his past be truly left behind, or would it forever shape him? The scars of his past were not easily erased, and they often influenced the choices he made. His desire for redemption was genuine, but the weight of his past actions and the persona he had built made it difficult for him to fully move forward. Despite this, Coe continued to push ahead, using his music as both a reflection of his struggles and a tool for healing. His songs were his way of reconciling the two sides of himself, embracing the outlaw while striving for the redemption he so deeply desired. After his release from prison, David Allan Coe faced the difficult task of reintegrating into society. The transition was anything but easy. The world had changed, and so had he. Coe found himself at a crossroads, trying to rebuild his life and career while still grappling with the demons of his past. The obstacles he faced were immense, from the stigma of being an ex-convict to the challenges of staying sober and focused on his music. The stigma of his past followed Coe everywhere he went. He was labeled an outsider, and the country music industry, while intrigued by his raw talent, was hesitant to fully embrace him. The challenges he faced weren't just professional, they were deeply personal. Coe struggled with staying sober, a battle that was made even more difficult by the pressures of the music business. The temptation to fall back into old habits was always there, especially when the weight of his past felt too heavy to bear. Despite these obstacles, Coe was determined to move forward. He poured his struggles into his music, using his songs as a way to process his emotions and share his story. His lyrics spoke of second chances, redemption, and the pain of trying to break free from the past. But for every moment of progress, there were setbacks that threatened to undo everything he had worked for. The rebellious, unapologetic persona that had defined his early career was both a blessing and a curse. It gave him a unique voice in the world of country music, but it also made it difficult for him to fully heal. The very image that made him famous was also the one that held him back from finding true peace. Coe's journey of redemption was far from a straightforward path. He faced criticism from those who believed he hadn't truly changed, and there were times when even he questioned whether he could ever fully escape the shadow of his past. His music became a reflection of this internal struggle, a constant battle between the desire for redemption and the pull of his old ways. The songs he wrote during this period were filled with raw emotion, capturing the highs and lows of his journey. They spoke of hope, regret, and the longing for a better future, but they also acknowledged the reality of his ongoing struggles. As Coe's career began to regain momentum, his personal life remained a roller coaster. He experienced moments of triumph, such as successful tours and critically acclaimed albums, but these were often followed by periods of relapse and setbacks. His addiction was a constant presence, a reminder of the battles he still had to fight. Yet, through it all, Coe never stopped making music. For him, music was both a lifeline and a form of therapy, a way to confront his demons and keep pushing forward, even when the odds seemed insurmountable. The question remained, was his music his way of finding redemption, or was it simply his way of confronting a past that he could never fully escape? Perhaps it was both. Coe's songs were his truth, a reflection of the man he was, flawed, struggling, but still fighting. His journey of redemption was not about reaching a perfect ending. It was about continuing to strive for something better, even when the past seemed determined to pull him back. In the end, Coe's story was one of resilience, a testament to the power of music as a means of survival and a way to find light in the darkest of times. Despite the struggles and controversies, David Allan Coe's influence on country music is undeniable. He was a key figure in the outlaw country movement, a voice that refused to be silenced or molded by the industry. His authenticity, his willingness to lay his soul bare, and his ability to remain true to his roots earned him a lasting legacy. Coe's story is one of struggle, survival, and defiance, a testament to the power of music as a means of expression. The complex relationship between his controversial lyrics and his growing influence is part of what makes Coe's legacy so intriguing. He was never one to shy away from the darker sides of life, and that raw honesty resonated with fans who saw themselves in his songs. Coe's lyrics often touched on taboo subjects, and while they sparked backlash, they also drew admiration for their unapologetic truth. His music was raw, real, and often difficult to digest, but it spoke to the experiences of those who felt marginalized and voiceless. Coe's influence extended beyond just his music. He became a symbol of resistance against the polished commercial side of country music. While many artists were willing to conform to industry standards to achieve success, Coe refused to compromise his vision. His refusal to fit neatly into the mold created by Nashville allowed him to stand out and pave the way for other artists who sought to challenge the status quo. His contributions to the outlaw country movement were instrumental in shaping a genre that celebrated authenticity and defiance. His journey, filled with both triumphs and setbacks, continues to inspire new generations of country music artists who strive to remain authentic in a world that often demands conformity. Coe's music and his story have left an indelible mark on the genre, influencing not just his contemporaries, but also younger artists who see in him a blueprint for how to remain true to oneself in an industry that often prioritizes marketability over substance. His ability to lay bare his flaws and struggles made him relatable, and it is this vulnerability that has kept his legacy alive. Coe's journey wasn't just about music. It was about embracing his past while striving for a future beyond it. His life was a testament to the belief that art should reflect the truth, no matter how messy or uncomfortable that truth may be. He showed that it was possible to confront one's past, to turn pain into art, and to find a sense of purpose through the very thing that once seemed unattainable. Self-acceptance. David Allan Coe's legacy is complex, filled with both moments of brilliance and controversy, but ultimately, it is one that speaks to the power of resilience, authenticity, and the enduring impact of music as a form of expression. David Allan Coe's life is a story of contradictions, a man who embodied the outlaw spirit while grappling with deep-seated regrets and a desire for redemption. His prison letters offer a glimpse into the vulnerable side of a man who spent much of his life projecting toughness. They reveal a struggle with identity, a longing for forgiveness, and the complexities of a man who lived life on his own terms. What do you think? Does this new look at Coe's regrets change how you see his legacy? Let us know in the comments below.